Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar. My name is Sinead and I'm client support at Turner Accountants and I will be your moderator. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with the webinar environment, these on screen now are the Zoom settings. So let's take a closer look. So select audio settings to select and test your speakers. If you've got any questions at all throughout the webinar, just submit them via the Q&A button. We'll answer your questions at the end of the webinar. And if you need to leave the webinar at any time, just click Leave Meeting. Okay, now I'd like to introduce you to today's presenter, Director at Turner Accountants. Welcome, Mike Turner.
Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. I was just turning my mute off. Yes, welcome to today's webinar, the last one before Christmas. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. Thanks for everyone for making the time to listen in. We appreciate that these are difficult times with great uncertainty and concern for you all. We want you to know that we're here for you, although it might be remotely, to give you whatever support we can to get you through these difficult times. So we're here to share with you practical things that you can do to minimize the downside on your cash flow at this time. Before we kick off, I just want to give you a thought for the day. So when a recession does materialize, many experts agree ready cash is the oxygen that every small business owner requires to survive. So today's agenda, we're going to look at the required mindset in these difficult times. We're going to talk about your debtors system while working from home, what lessons we can take into the future, what support available is in the meantime, your next step, and questions. With our thought for the day in mind, that you should never take your eye off cash flow, and before we talk about strategies you can adopt, let's talk about 3 mindsets you need to have. So 1, you must show empathy. 2, you must approach your debtor management with backbone and heart. And 3, it's okay to sell in these times, so as long as you're solving problems for your customers that they have right now. Remember the analogy of the oxygen mask in a time of emergency. You need to put your own oxygen mask on first. If your business falls over, no one wins. So be empathetic. So you can do this by asking your customers how they're coping, by asking how their business is going, by consider the loyalty that they've shown you, and by giving your customers options about how they pay you. It's not, of course, it's not as simple as saying, right, oxygen mask on me, the customers pay or we won't help. We have heard some horror stories of businesses who are stopping credit and ramping up their debt collection without any thought for how their customers are coping. We know this isn't you. So before we work out the best way to keep cash flow going, we need a framework. This framework starts with empathy, which we define as the ability to see things from your customer's perspective and be prepared to do something about it. Hence the idea of giving customers options as to how they can pay you. So have a backbone and heart. So it's okay to be paid for the value you provide. You're running a business which is equally challenged in these times. Don't forget that you've supplied a service and the customer has to pay for that service. But heart, so link to your purpose statement, consider all options for payment and be flexible and considerate in your approach. So before we said, yes, it's okay to sell. So what do we mean about that? The final mindset in these times, especially if you're a service provider, is that it's okay to sell. So long as your product or service is solving a problem for your customers, and so long as you're going to be paid for that work you do. The spin cycle is a line of questions starting with situation questions, then moving to problem questions. Let's use the example of a hairdresser. So you might ask the questions like, how are you coping with being at home right now? Are you spending a lot of time on FaceTime or other calls with video on? Problem questions. How do you feel that every day, most probably, is starting to feel like a bad hair day? Impact questions. How do you think you're going to be feeling in a month from now? Next step questions. I know we can't be certain when this will be over, but should we book you in for a full makeover in three weeks' time? So what's important is that it's absolutely okay to sell so long as you link your offering as a way of solving a current problem for your customers. So your debtor system. So now we've talked about 3 mindsets you need to have. We can talk more specifically about your debtor system in these challenging times. First, I'll talk about best practice, then I'll share a guide and some scripts, and then I'll talk some more about credit control procedures. So, best practice. Just bear with me. Yeah. So essentially, nothing should change. Just dial up your empathy. By engaging more with customers around their particular circumstances, you can tweak your process just for the customers who are going to struggle. Remember that not all your customers are at great risk here. COVID-19 should not give them an excuse not to pay you. You have done the work or supplied the product, you're running a business and you need to be paid. You should be using paperless systems. If not, this is going to need to be your top priority, or your customers simply won't know how much to pay. Best practice credit control is that you have great guidance notes for the team members responsible for your credit control and debt collecting. Things like flowcharts, scripts, and templates. We'll show you these shortly as we've put together a package on this for you. Many problems with debtors come about because we don't have put great systems in place giving credit in the first place. We'll talk about credit checks and outsourcing shortly. So here's a snippet of the guide and credit control script we've put together. We're happy to share this with you at no cost at the back of the webinar. So let's have a look at this. So we just need to bring up. Yeah, so this is the template which you're going to receive off the webinar. So it's a complete guide to credit control. So first of all, we're looking at terms of trade. So you must have robust terms of trade in place before you're offering credit to customers. It's no good not having terms of trade. So the customer knows when he's got to pay you and he knows what the likely impact of if he doesn't. So the terms of trade ensure that you cover delivery, i.e. how, when, cost, late delivery, installation, limits on liabilities, warranties, and so on. You can read those at your leisure. So billing. So it's essential to invoice your customers immediately after supplying the products or the services. So many people, especially small businesses, there's a time lag between when you do the service and when the actual customer receives the bill. So you can help by utilizing a lot of billing software now, such as Xero, which send invoices straight to the customer by email. So there's lots and lots of technology to help you with billing nowadays. You can even do it out to the customers as well by the system you have. Payment terms. So you've got to look at your payment terms. Maybe you should review your current payment terms and considering maybe shortening your payment terms from maybe 20th of the following month to 10 days after invoice. So maybe offering additional payment alternatives. i.e. credit card, direct debit, online payments, payments via Xero, or maybe offering a small discount for prompt payment. Okay. Automation of billing and payments. Again, directly invoicing from your accounting software can enable faster payments of your invoices. So Xero allows customers to pay their bill directly from the invoice using credit card, PayPal or Stripe. So you actually don't have to do anything. The customer's just clicking on an invoice payment button and then actually paying the invoice. So then we get on to debtor management. So you've set it up, you send the bill out, you deliver the goods or the service, now you've got to collect the money. So when you're having debtor management, you've got to have a robust system. So you've got to have some sort of plan each month. So that entails that you might be sending statements out at the end of the month. Then after 5 days, you might be ringing those people and saying, you know, when are you going to pay me? And then maybe 5 days of that, if you haven't received or can't get hold of them, maybe you're sending an email. And then another step after that is maybe sort of saying, when are you going to pay me? If you don't pay me, then we're going to take further action. So as long as you've got a plan and you follow that plan each month, so your customer knows when they're going to have to pay that invoice, then you'll find that that helps with collection of your cash. So like I say, you're looking at your debtors list and looking at who needs to pay you. So you've got to record all contact with debtors. So you've got to find out who the person that deals with credit, with paying invoices at the other end is. So you've got a contact number for them. And then you've got to write down when you talk to them, time and the date of the contact, whether you spoke to them on the phone, by email or letter, and the outcome, i.e. they said they're going to pay you on such a date. Okay, and there's other little things in there, the privacy considerations, subsequent follow-up, maybe referral to external debt collection agency for those people that aren't going to, are resisting paying you. And there's also, there's some additional strategies to maximize prompt payment. And then there's an action plan there, sort of things to do to get a credit control system in place. Okay, so you'll be getting that at the end of the seminar. We'll be emailing that out to you so you can work through it. So if we just go back to if we just go back to the original slides. So here we are, credit control services. So it's important to remember that credit control is just not about following up your debtors. It's a complete system for when you take a customer on through until when they pay you, which we sort of demonstrated before in the credit control procedures. As mentioned previously, you may consider that you'll outsource your credit management. We not only believe that this is best practice, it frees up your time as well. It's essential that you build a relationship with your chosen provider so they can understand your core values, your style of communication, and the language you use. Having said that, outsourcing is an alternative. It's not an ambulance at the bottom of the cliff. In the current climate, you can't suddenly outsource credit management for customers who are really going to struggle in these difficult times, as this will cause brand damage for you and the credit controller, not to mention wasting a lot of time. That's why we've developed some of the content that we showed you just to help you. Our cash flow management coaching system is a great way to drill down even further to make sure you have the best systems in place to free up cash control. So also you can use credit check agencies such as Equifax for credit checks for new customers. The banks always provide this. So you don't want to inherit other firms' non-paying customers, even in the current climate. So we strongly advise that you do have credit checks in place for new customers and set a credit limit for them. So lessons we can take into the future. So yeah, we're going to look at your cash conversion cycle, your business 101, 7 causes of poor cash flow, getting runs on the board quickly, and maybe bank assistance and government support every time. So we've talked about best practice with your debtors and how to avoid working for people who can't pay you. Now it's time to talk about what you need to do going forward from here to maximize your own cash flow. Some of the concepts you may have heard before if you came to our business continuity planning webinar. If this is you, then listen for the distinctions and make some notes about the actions you need to take, as we're asking you for these actions in your feedback at the end. So your business cash conversion cycle. One of the most important ways to improve your business is to shorten your cash conversion cycle. In other words, get your cash quicker. What's super important in times of crisis is that all businesses speed up their cash conversion cycle so that the economy keeps working. Paying your suppliers more slowly just creates problems for other businesses, who most likely are suffering as much as you are. Let's take an example of a wholesaler. So, wholesaler buys stock from suppliers, on average, must pay suppliers 45 days after buying the stock. The stock doesn't sell the moment it comes into the warehouse. Some stock sells quickly, other stock takes longer, and eventually some stock has to be discounted to get it to move at all. On average, stock is held for 60 days. When the stock is sold, credit terms are provided to the customers, but a number of customers are not observing these credit terms. On average, it takes 60 days for customers to pay. So now we can calculate the cash conversion cycle. 60 days average stock holding plus 60 days to get paid by customers, less 45 days credit provided by suppliers equals 75 days to convert inputs to cash. In difficult times such as this, we need to ensure that you have a plan in place to shorten this cash conversion cycle. This is the process we recommend you do as part of your business continuity plan. Using the numbers for your most recent management accounts, we can work out the above numbers and calculate your cash conversion cycle. From there, we can discuss with you how we can work together to shorten this cycle and free up more cash. For example, if your debt is worth 50 grand and your turnover is 500 grand per annum, a 10-day reduction in your cash conversion cycle is worth £13,700 to you. That is cash that you could really do with right now, I'm sure. We recommend you incorporate a review of your cash conversion cycle as part of your business continuity plan or forecast, as to free up much cash flow as possible. So the next thing that was on the agenda was your 101 business cycle. So what's all that about? Excuse me, just a minute. Another area of focus to improve your cash flow needs to be on your business 101 cycle in these difficult times. As we often tell you, there's a massive difference between profit and cash. Profit is what you pay tax on. Cash is the oxygen your business needs to survive. What is so important here is that as well as improving your cash conversion cycle, you make plans to maximize your profit at the same time finance your business correctly. So let's walk through this business 101 cycle. Starting at the top, as an owner, you introduce cash into the business to buy assets. You may also borrow cash to purchase assets. These assets are then used to generate a profit. How you increase your profit is to improve revenue or sales. Very difficult in these challenging times, but still possible. Increase margin or efficiency or trim overhead expenses. So now is a very good time to be looking closely at potential new revenue lines, new potential customers, a pivot in your sales strategy, or what you can do to avoid losing existing customers. At the same time, you ought to be looking at how you can improve your margins via efficiency gains, better purchasing, reduction in errors and wastage, or simply discontinuing with products or services that have a poor margin. The amount of times I go into business where they don't know what margin they're making on individual products, and when you start looking, they've got some very good profit lines, but people also have very poor profit lines of goods that shouldn't really be selling anymore. Once you divide your profit, you need to turn that into cash. Profitable businesses can and do go broke at times like these. You need to be looking at how you can maximize your cash flow using strategies to get paid quicker, reduce stock or work in progress, or by negotiating better payment terms with your suppliers. Now is not the time to be slow or lenient on debt collection. Likewise, you need to be very careful about reordering stock. Can you operate with less stock or other items that are likely to be in short supply? Other areas to help you improve your cash flow are through better terms with your financiers. You can go on to interest only, for example, on some of your loans. Likewise, there are many tax concessions available right now, so you'll want to make sure you access them. Things like probably you've already deferred your VAT. Can you come to an arrangement with HMRC for payment of your corporation tax? Or there's an automatic 12-month payment plan for personal tax as well in January. So let's have a look at the 7 causes of poor cash flow. So on accounts receivable process. So we've talked about that. We've talked about how you can get your cash in quicker by having a good credit control system. Accounts payable process. Yeah, can you, 7 causes of poor cash flow is you're not paying your suppliers quickly enough. Inventory and work in progress process. So you're not converting your work in progress into sales invoices quick enough, or you're ordering stock too early or holding too much stock. Inappropriate debt. So maybe you're not financed as much as you should be. Overheads are too high. Gross profit margin is too low, or sales are too low. So getting runs on the board quickly. So how do we pull all this together in a meaningful way in our current climate and into the future? Outsource credit management where you can, but you've got to be careful here though, because if you suddenly enlist the service of a credit controller or debt collector with customers you know are highly unlikely to be able to pay you, then you risk irreparable damage to your brand. So if you're already a credit manager, then use them for your customers you know should be able to pay during these difficult times. If you don't currently use an outsourced credit controller, this is something maybe you should be considering as part of your long-term commitment to your overall credit management. In both cases, it's most likely you're going to need to deal direct with the customers who can't pay. Remember the points I made earlier about being empathetic with those customers, and use the guidance scripts we have shown you. Revise your terms of trade and proposals. Make sure you don't perpetuate poor practice in the future. Once again, we have plenty of ideas we can share with you on a one-to-one basis as part of our cash flow management coaching service. The strategies you adopt here need to be tailored for your particular business. Remember to look at your billing process. Get customers onto repeating or automated invoicing where you can, so that you're never slow in getting your invoices out. Consider if it's possible to create contacts with your clients with more regular invoicing, e.g. a deposit on acceptance of a proposal, or interim invoicing, or progress payments if appropriate. If you have additional or out-of-scope work, make sure you communicate that early and get an acceptance from your customer in advance of doing the work to avoid a complaint or invoice query or dispute after the work has been completed. Also check that you revise your price list to ensure that the margins you expect are being preserved. A great way to do this, use any time you have at home now to back cost the last few jobs you've done to identify if the returns you're getting match what you expected when you issued your quote. Likewise, if you're in retail or hospitality, you can use this time to review your margins and pricing. With so much cloud technology now, it's a great time to looking at how you can use automation to free up your time and cash flow. As well as repeating invoices, consider how you can move your proposal or quoting process to a paperless and online option. Last, but by no means least, look at your management controls and procedures about spending and invoicing. For example, set limits around what stock or products can be ordered. Consider how you can reduce your level of stocks or improve your efficiency in operations. Whatever you do, don't keep working for customers who don't pay. The amount of times I see on customers' debtor lists that they don't have a credit limit for customers and they are still working for customers, or even if they do have a credit limit, they don't put customers on stop. You must have a procedure, and if the customer exceeds his credit limit, then there's got to be some sort of accountability. You're running a business, and right now you need to reduce your risk whenever you can. So, your next steps. So we've set out for you the mindsets you need to have in these difficult times. To be empathetic, have backbone and heart around debt collecting, and how to avoid shying away from selling. We shared best practice about credit control and debtor collection and showed you a guide and scripts that you can use. Like I say, that'll be emailed out to you. We've covered how to free up as much cash flow as possible by looking closely at your cash flow conversion cycle and business 101 model. We've looked at the 7 causes of poor cash flow and how you get runs on the board quickly to improve cash flow, including what support is available. Now, it's essentially that you decide what you're going to do. As we have said before, clearly doing nothing is not an option. Now's the time to put the oxygen mask on yourself and make a plan to get through this crisis. Even if that plan involves closing your business, you're better off to make the decision sooner rather than later to preserve what cash flow you can. Part of the planning to surround yourself with experts. We're here to help. Remember to focus on what you can do. With this in mind, we've developed this guide to credit control and some detailed scripts for debtor management that we'll be sending you at no cost from us. Also, we are now at a stage where we've covered most of the material I wanted to. And if we've just got any questions, have any questions come in, Sinead?
Hi, Mike, thanks for that. Okay, the first question we've had is, do you have to pay extra for the ability to pay via Xero?
There are various ways that you can. You don't actually have to pay Xero anything. As long as you've got the full version, then you can connect it to places like PayPal, Stripe, or Go Cardless. But the people like Stripe, Go Cardless, they will charge you. Xero won't charge you, but you have to make a charge to, there will be a charge from Go Cardless or from people like Stripe. They're not excessive if you consider that it takes out the human element and you're not having to spend time chasing the money if you're actually getting automated and the money is coming in automatically. Any more?
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I find it hard having conversations about debt collection as I do the sales as well. What can I do?
That's a really difficult one because the sales function and actually selling the product and then getting the order and then the invoice goes out and then the customer doesn't pay, especially if you're a small company and there's not many of you. If at all possible, you need to divorce the function of selling and cash collection. So if there's anybody else in the company that can do debt collection instead of you, then you must do that. You must try and divorce the two functions. At some stage, if the person that's trying to collect the debt does have a problem and is getting nowhere, then you as maybe the senior person or the boss might have to get involved, but that should only be a last resort. So yeah, set up your credit control procedures again and get somebody else to do it apart from you if you're doing the selling. Anything else?
Yeah, we've just got one more. Customers often say they're going to pay me, but then I receive nothing. How can I deal with this?
Yeah, again, this is down to having a system. So if you have a procedure where you chase customers up at the same time each month, and then one of them says, yeah, I'm going to pay you next week, and then nothing happens, then in your system, you've got a record of when you spoke to that person, what they said they were going to do, how much they said they were going to pay you, and when they're going to pay you. So then you can go back to the customer and say, look, I spoke to you on the 12th of December and you said you were going to pay me £560 and it's not come in. Is there any reason for this? Can I help? Try and investigate, like I say, be empathetic. Try and say, is there any reason why you haven't paid? You can take the payment over the phone now, so give them alternatives. And you've just got to have a procedure. And if you log that procedure and log when you speak to those people, they will soon get used to the fact that they can't hoodwink you and say, look, I'm going to pay you, or I never said that, because you've got it recorded. So people get embarrassed when you put them on the spot and say, no, I spoke to you on such a date. And a lot of them in that situation will actually pay you, and you can take payments over the phone. Any more, Sinead?
No, that's it. That's all of them.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for attending today. Parting thought, when you show deep empathy towards others, their defensive energy goes down and their positive energy replaces it. That's when you get more creative in solving problems. So thanks for making the time to attend this webinar. We appreciate your time, it's very valuable right now. We hope you've given plenty of ideas to think about and some clear options for how we can support you. So yeah, thank you. Hopefully we'll be running some more webinars next year, and you'll see details of those. But in the meantime, thank you very much for attending, and I hope you have all a very happy Christmas in these strange times, and look forward to speaking to you in the new year.